What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage, and you can join us at InsideTheGame.ca, our YouTube channel at Inside the Game Official, podcast services over at Fired Up Network, our fast channel at Rad TV, and all those other TV streaming platforms around the globe. I'm talking about Amazon Prime, Roku, Jinx Esports TV, ESTV, and a whole lot more. Dude, we are everywhere. But we do have a lot to talk about today, Scott. What are we talking about?
We're talking about how Phil Spencer has responded to the Activision Blizzard Gamepass acquisitions. Are we getting those soon, please? Spider-Man 2 gets a new Game Plus mode. Splinter Cell Remake is in development. That much can be certain, but when becomes a question. Eidos Montreal job listings, and those are very positive news.
Yeah, some great news today. Can't wait. Let's talk about it. It's Phil Spencer. Scott, now that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard for Microsoft is done, Phil Spencer had a couple words to say. Phil Spencer confirms that Activision Blizzard games won't come to Game Pass this year. Now that the deal is closed, we're starting to work, but there's that work. Andy Chalk, PC gamer. For gamers, most of alluring possibilities created by Microsoft's finally completed acquisition of Activision Blizzard is the prospect of games like Call of Duty, Diablo, and Overwatch on Game Pass. Microsoft's subscription service is already a hell of a deal, and adding annualized interactions of Call of Duty plus everything Blizzard does makes it even more attractive. And it will no longer doubt happen eventually, but not anytime soon. Activision said last week that its games won't arrive to Game Pass until 2024 at the earliest. And in a recent interview with official Xbox podcast, Xbox boss, man, that gets me every time, Phil Spencer said that the timeline is accurate. Fans had their fingers crossed for a big Activision rollout, in large part because that's what Microsoft did when it acquired Bethesda Softworks. Almost immediately after closing the deal, Microsoft dropped 13 Bethesda games, including Dishonored. Yo, where's Dishonored 3, Scott?
Oh, please.
Bring it. Let's go. Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Prey on the Game Pass. Spencer said it wasn't possible to do that with the Activision Blizzard buyout because of the complexity of the approval process. Quote, the regulatory process took so long, and frankly, there was a lot of uncertainty in the process up to a week before we closed, or the week of, when the CMA finally came down to their decision that we weren't able to get in and work with mostly Activision Blizzard in this case on that back catalog work, end quote. Spencer said, quote, so now the deal is closed, we're starting that work, but there is work. I would love if there was some kind of secret celebration drop that's coming in the next couple of weeks. There's not, end quote. Spencer said he believes the 2024 target shared by Activision last week is accurate, and that there's being very clear on the time frame because he wants to be straight with people. Quote, if we are going to put them in the subscription this year, I would tell people, end quote. He said, quote, and I know there's some disappointment about that. The acquisition is definitely long-term, so the fact that we're not hitting day one with a bunch of games dropping into Game Pass is a little bit of a downer, but I'm very excited about the future, end quote. That future, Spencer said, is this in the same interview, could include, quote, revisited, end quote, versions of classic Activision and Blizzard games for Game Pass. Quote, if teams want to go back and revisit some of the things we have and do a full focus on it, I'm gonna be all in. I think there's an amazing trove of games we could go and touch on again, end quote. Scott, we heard go ahead.
Sounds like some bringing back some old IPs that we haven't seen in a while, perhaps, or some older ones that have just been sitting on the shelf for a long time. I'm thinking of StarCraft. I don't think Warcraft is going to happen again, is it?
No, I don't know. Here's my thing. So a lot of these older IPs, are we going to get like the rare replay situation with Activision? The Activision replays, so to speak, right? Where they drop a bunch of the old classic titles in there and have at it? Or are they going to actually revisit, build from the ground up with some of these titles?
That would be really cool. I'm wondering if some of them would lend to that. Guitar Hero comes to mind.
Oh man,
is there hunger for Guitar Hero? Do you go back and revisit that, or package together a whole new compilation? It has been a while since we've seen any sort of Guitar Hero rock band / combination of any of that, but maybe that was for good reason.
Well, yeah. My biggest thing is, like, are we getting back into the old days of like Spyro? Spyro coming back. Is that an opportunity that we'll be getting into, right? They have such a long list of beloved games. The Crash franchise is something they can tap into. They have, as of recently, brought us new games, and they've done well, but that team, Toys for Bob, has been then transitioned into Call of Duty. Like, now is this the chance to separate that team once more, with so many people being able to work with Activision Blizzard, and then now with Microsoft, that Toys for Bob just goes back to doing some of these platformers that fans want and adore, right? I think that's the other question. Where are some of those games, Scott? Yo, Prototype. Think we'll get that one?
Oh, I wasn't such a big fan of Prototype the first time it came around, but I would be interested.
You never know. Tony Hawk is obviously one of the bigger ones too that fans have been asking for. We did have Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remade and brought over for us. So there's a lot of love going into that one. But again, right, another team gets shuttered and now on to Call of Duty. So
I wonder how legally could we get Dave Mira's revitalization. Because of the tragedy involved in that, I'm not certain if that is possible.
Was that an Activision
remaster? It's so long ago now, I have a hard time remembering.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, Tony Hawk really does come to mind though. Crash and Spyro, right? Some of the big time classics within the franchises that they've carried over for years and just kind of left a little bit dormant. Like, when's the last time we actually saw Spyro?
There was that a trilogy put together? I think. Perhaps I'm thinking of Crash though.
Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What about Crash? Did you ever play Crash Team Racing? That was
sure did. Absolutely, yeah. So there's another opportunity, right? I just saw the other day. Shout out to Naughty Dog because they're the ones that actually started with Crash and all that kind of stuff. But they had Jack Racing as an anniversary. I'm like, man, Jack and Daxter, where are those guys? But
yeah, Jack 4, please.
When you take a look at the timeline, though, that Activision, as well as Phil Spencer have stated, 2024 really isn't that far away, right? We're now into October, so we're at the end of October. So yeah, what do we got? A couple months. I'm sure they can handle a couple rollouts by the beginning of January, February, right? I would expect something sooner than later. But yeah, not this year. So either way, you got high hopes.
My ultimate pie in the sky is Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. That was released on GameCube, so we're going back a long time ago now. But you give that a little dusting, a little new coat of paint.
Yeah,
I would be so happy.
I guess time will tell. But like I said, 2024, not that far away. Scott, some good news for Spider-Man 2 fans. It was getting a Game Plus mode before 2024. Grant Taylor Hale over at Insider Gaming. There's something so easy about New Game Plus. It gives players the ability to explore the entire game all over again, but from a ridiculously overpowered perspective. At least from the start of the game, that is. It's such a simple consideration in this day and age, and plenty of games either launch with it or they get it added later on, which usually brings a vast swath of players flooding back. On Twitter, the community and marketing director at Insomniac, James Stevenson, reported to a user asking about New Game Plus and a mission replay function. And he said quite simply, quote, no. We're working on an update for those features, but they won't be day one, end quote. When asked why they won't be featured at launch, he simply replied, quote, because game dev isn't simple nor easy, end quote. And then, when grilled about a potential release window for this update, he said, quote, should be before the end of the year. So that's a good thing right there, Scott. People do love this game mode, right? I'm never really one to go back in to play New Game Plus. I usually, when I wrap up a game, dude, I just bounce, right? And I'm on to whatever's next. And then working away on that, kind of enjoying the next game. When my experiences with games, this is how I like it, right? Start a game, everything's brand new and fresh. And I very, very rarely will go back because I've already played that and know what happens.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's not just because it's a big story beat for you, because my time, I end up 100%ing a game by that point. I'm out.
Sure. Yeah, it's the story, right? It's like I don't watch too many movies over again either. Like I've seen the film, so I don't need to go back and watch it. I already know what happened. Same with TV shows, right? Like I never start them over. It's just I've already seen it. I might need a recap once in a while if it's on to now season 2 of whatever we're watching, like The Witcher, right? Get a quick recap of The Witcher 1, season 1, and then boom, I'm into season 2. but I'm not going to go back and rewatch all those from the beginning. And then same thing for games for me. There is a couple games, but some of them are just, they're meant to be replayed, right? I think that's the other thing. And at the end of the day, though, if it's old and it's like, yo, I haven't been to this game in forever. Like Dishonored 2, I'm going back in, right? Because it's been that long. I wanted something stealth as well. There's that other feeling, right? That hit me where I'm like, yo, I could really go for a good stealth game. Dishonored 2, I'm going to bounce back into that, start that over. It's been a long time since I played that story. Spider-Man 2, dude, I wrapped it up. I'm not about to go back and start all over again when I just finished it. I get having all my powers and souped up, but at the end of the day, I'm already done.
Yeah, this very rarely do I want to go back for another game. I'm thinking it works for a lot of Soulsborne kind of ideas. Sure. But that's only because when you're done with that, you don't want the challenge to end. And those kind of games you can play 100 million times over. But trying to think of the last time I would have used the New Game Plus, and I really can't even recall.
No, right? Like right now, what I am doing is I'm going back into Mirage, Assassin's Creed Mirage. But that's because I want to wrap up all the achievements. Not because I'm starting the story over, right? I'm just back into that world. Dude, I love that world. That Baghdad and everything else in that area and everything was so cool. And I'm off to hit exploring points, historical capture points as well, and do all that. That's my return to the game, not starting the story all over. That's just me.
I follow the same pattern. Yeah. Once you wrap up the achievement list, then I'm out. I've had enough of the game usually. Yeah. I'll remember it fondly or not.
Absolutely. Let us know over on Twitter at the official ITG. How often do you go back to a New Game Plus? It's got a job listing seems to point to a ramping up in Splinter Cell Remake's development. Thank goodness. My God, it's killing me, Scott. David Carosel over at PSU had this to say. When the Splinter Cell Remake was first revealed, fans could hardly believe it. For so long, it looked like Sam Fisher was to remain a character Ubisoft called back for nostalgia hit across its other titles. Dude, it's like Sam is everywhere else but his own game.
Yeah, we see him most often in Rainbow Six.
Yep, absolutely. Hopefully the remake is able to invigorate the series and lead to a brand new entries, but it has to be made first. And regarding that, it looks like Ubisoft Toronto, the lead studio on the remake, is ramping up in development with multiple job listings currently up. There's currently 12 job listings across departments for Ubisoft Toronto alone to work on Splinter Cell Remake, including gameplay animator, narrative designer, texture artist, technical director for art, and more. While this could be a sign that Splinter Cell Remake will begin to become more of a focus across Ubisoft now that Assassin's Creed Mirage is available, it also seems to be a sign that we still have some time before we can expect to see a release date. Dude, here's the thing.
Yeah, it appears that game is not coming this year either.
No, a narrative designer. A narrative designer, Scott. Yo, they're not close to this, man. Not even close. Like, they're still hiring for people. I'm calling it, it is 2023. We will get this by 2030.
Oh, that far away.
I think
being a
we're
remake,
that far
though.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Maybe I can scale it back. I'll go 5 years.
Yeah, if you put a brand new title, of course, it's going to take that long for sure. But
yeah.
Because it's a remake, but then again, would you need to hire a narrative designer if it were completely remake, sticking to the old material?
They're going from it's the very first one they're remaking, isn't it? Like, they're looking to reboot the franchise. So they're going to start at ground zero, remake it from the ground up, which I am beloved. Can't wait to see what they do, but I can't, man, like, it's going to be so far away, and it's just killer, man, that they let Sam Fisher go dormant for so long. Like, he's been around everywhere else but his own game all the time, it feels like. It's like, why did you guys let Sam Fisher slip? It is one of the coolest franchises they own, but yet year after year I feel like we get another Far Cry game, which is the same thing over and over again.
I wonder if we'll see Sam in X Defiant. I don't recall if he's there particularly him. No. I know Third Echelon is supposed to be, but
yeah.
Or did they drop that? I can't recall anymore because
it's Fourth Echelon is what it is, right?
Oh,
so
that's right.
We moved on, and into Blacklist is now Fourth Echelon. So this is where it's ended. Blacklist was a PS3, Xbox 360 game, Scott.
Yeah, I think that was a decade ago.
So now we've missed this generation. We missed the next generation of being PS4, Xbox One, And now, dude, I guarantee it, they missed the PS5 and the Xbox Series X generation. We're not going to get this till the next generation of consoles, which by then, hopefully, this will be all fleshed out. It's not a brand new story, obviously, because they're rebooting the franchise, but what are they going to add to the narrative? Because back then, when that game initially launched, it was a solid story, but to today's standards, I wonder what they want to add in to kind of, mix it up a little bit. A bunch of people are going to play this for the very first time, right? So it's going to be a brand new experience for them. So, like, for us, dude, nostalgia is going to hit us, like, hard. But for everybody who hasn't played the original, or not even a Splinter Cell game for that matter, right? This is their introduction to now build this franchise up again and push it forward for all these people who have never played Splinter Cell to hopefully fall in love the way we have in the past and carry us forward as well as them.
I really hope for that matter they don't water the experience down too much to try and get that mass appeal.
Sure.
I understand the nostalgia is going to draw most of the money in, I think. So I really hope it's true to form and more like chaos theory than conviction, but that's just my own taste.
Well, where do they lead? So let's call the second Splinter Cell game. I'm saying, okay, first one's out. We rebooted the franchise, right? They got people involved now we're invested into Sam once more. That story's wrapped up. Do they continue on with the second game, Pandora Tomorrow? Or do they branch off and do their own story now, a fresh take on where they plan to take Splinter Cell next, right? That's there's a list of games, man. We had 5 Splinter Cell games?
Yeah.
Right?
Was it 5? I think it was 5, yeah.
Yeah. So do they
6 perhaps.
Okay, so
Either, Double Agent.
Oh yeah, right. I kind of forget that one. That was just kind of a bit of a miss.
Yeah.
Right? But it's they
strange. My least played one, but
yeah, I think it's a lot of people at least played. Do they follow this story beat along and revitalize and remake each game, or are they just looking to boot it up, Scott, and then branch out?
I bet they're gonna boot it up and then branch out into something new, and I'm okay with that just because I'm hungry for anything new.
Right.
I just hope it's done justice by the original trilogy, and I stick with that trilogy because that's where it was really the golden era for me.
Yeah, oh yeah, me too, without a doubt. Do they stick around with Sam, or do they pass it off?
That's the next thing, is because Sam was always talking about how he's getting older and wanted to retire. So I'm wondering if you give it to Sarah Fisher, that might work out. But I don't know if I like just handing it down like a dynasty.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid is not the same without Snake, right? So is it the same deal here with Splinter Cell? I don't know.
Do we get Michael Ironside's voice for Snake?
No.
Can he come back to the no?
I'm calling it's not him. I bet you it's not him. They're gonna go back to a younger Sam Fisher, right? When they reboot this franchise. Michael Ironside's a little bit older now. I don't know if he can tone it down a bit, but I'd love to have him back too. Without a doubt, that is Sam Fisher. But
Kiefer Sutherland instead.
No, please don't do that. Yeah. But either way, Splinter Cell, man, I can't wait. But we're gonna be waiting quite some time. Scott, Eidos Montreal job listing suggests its new IP will feature open world third-person platforming. Yo, I'm excited for this. I'm so excited for this. And there's a couple reasons, but let's get into Michael Hardin's PSU article. The series job openings at Eidos Montreal have indicated that the studio's new IP will feature an open world setting complete with third-person platforming. The studio has a number of jobs available at the studio, including level design, lead world level designer, performance level designer. There's a bunch of them, regardless. There's a couple of interesting points to take away from these job openings. For example, the lead level designer mentions working with a director team and supervising the design and implementation of the project's multiple village, sand, civilized zones, its NPCs and interactions with player characters. Experience the open world mission design is also mentioned. Furthermore, the posting of chapters level designer mentions experience with level design layouts for complex combat encounters, as well as the layout for third-person platforming / parkour traversals. Last November, Bloomberg Jason Schreier reported that Eidos Montreal were working on 3 projects: a new IP, which was recently rescoped, a new Deus Ex. Oh, Scott, maybe.
Maybe one day.
Maybe we'll get that new Deus Ex title, and a co-developing partnership with Xbox that includes Fable. Nothing official has been announced by the studio itself, so take this all with a pinch of salt. Scott, I think this is Okay, here's the thing. Eidos got sucked into the Embracer group. So if you've been following Embracer, you're just as terrified as we are of what's going to happen to this team. But if they're hiring for a new IP, and dude, just the perspective that they take, I love third person. It is my go-to play style. And if it's open world, I'm excited to see what else they're going to bring us. How about you, Scott?
This is making me think of Sunset Overdrive. I'm not expecting a game quite that bombastic or, well, excellent. Just for example, I love that game so much. So I'm not expecting a follow-up to that. But this might be a sign that Eidos is one of the very few things to escape a black hole.
Yeah. What do you think of the parkour element design, though? I'm like, that's something we haven't really necessarily seen in a lot of besides Assassin's Creed, right? That's the standout franchise for parkour. But then you get into Sunset Overdrive, there's another one. And you can even mention a little bit of Spider-Man, just the way the traversal works within Spider-Man, that it is so free-flowing. But when they get into parkour here at Eidos, like, man, I think Eidos Montreal, I'm thinking Deus Ex, right? Sneak, stealth, slow down. Now, this is a wholly, completely different game.
It's kind of making me think of Mirror's Edge, and I can't recall who actually made Mirror's Edge, but I don't believe we're not getting another one. That's what that means.
No, we're not getting another one there at all whatsoever. But it is exciting to see that Eidos is actually hiring, because like I said, right, with Embracer shutting everybody down, Volition after 30 years shut them down. Like, that's heartbreaking to see a lot of these closures, a lot of layoffs lately. So it's nice to see this and the other spin of it, where people are actually looking to hire on more staff. So maybe some of these teams that have left these development studios can now maybe join Eidos and hopefully build something super cool in the next 5 years. But until then, Scott, we'll just have to wait and see. Scott, the massive list of games out today continues. What are they?
We have Endless Dungeon on PC, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, XS, and the Switch. The Gap is on PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, X and S. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged releases on PC, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, XS, and the Switch. Airport Sim on PC and Xbox Series consoles. Here's another one for the Sim catalog for you. The Seventh Guest VR is on PC, PlayStation 5, PSVR 2. Strike Force Heroes is on PC, as well as Forgive Me Father 2 on PC. If you're a fan of boomer shooters, check that one out. Gargoyles Remastered is PC, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, XS, and the Switch. Mail Time is now on the PlayStation 4, 5, and Switch. And Leica Age Through Blood is on PC. We did a bit of a look at the demo on that one. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Absolutely. We also checked out, of course, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged. Make sure you check out that review. And I believe it was Corey and Steve checked out the Seventh Guest VR. Return to form, dude. Check that one out too. So many games to play, it never ends.
Daring new moves will revolutionize the gameplay from the ground up to spice up the battle. They're fueled by your boost supply, so use it wisely and drift to always keep it charged. Jumps.
And that'll wrap up today's show, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Drew. That's Scott.
We'll see you inside the game.